Most organizations do security controls, but struggle to show how they support business goals. NIST CSF profiles are the missing bridge. In this module, you'll see how to turn the generic CSF 2.0 into a tailored, actionable security strategy for your environment. NIST CSF 2.0 gives you a large catalog of possible cybersecurity outcomes. That's powerful, but not every outcome matters equally for every organization. A hospital, a SaaS startup, and a government agency face very different risks. So we need a way to filter, prioritize, and tailor the core to a specific mission and context. An organizational CSF profile is how you customize the generic NIST CSF to your own reality. You start with the full set of outcomes, then select and prioritize them based on your mission, risk appetite, and constraints. That profile becomes a bridge between business requirements and security activities, turning abstract standards into a concrete cybersecurity strategy. Think of CSF profiles as two snapshots in time. The current profile answers, given our constraints and reality, which outcomes are we actually achieving? The target profile answers, based on risk, strategy, and obligations, which outcomes must we achieve? The real work is the space between those two pictures. You compare them, identify gaps, and translate those gaps into specific projects, owners, and timelines. Then you repeat the cycle as your environment, threats, and business priorities evolve. A current profile is your honest snapshot of how cybersecurity actually works in your environment today. It's grounded in evidence, real policies, procedures, tool configurations, logs, interviews, and audit results. The mindset you need is accuracy over optimism. If you overstate maturity here, every gap analysis, roadmap, and investment decision that follows will be distorted. A target profile describes what good looks like for cybersecurity in your organization. It's not a generic best practice checklist. It's the set of outcomes that matter most for your mission. You shape it using 4 inputs: your business objectives, the real threat landscape you face, legal and contractual requirements, and your risk appetite, what you're willing and not willing to tolerate. Community profiles are one of the major additions in CSF 2.0. Think of them as pre-built profiles created by and for a specific community, an industry sector, a technology stack, or even a particular threat like ransomware. They give you a vetted baseline of outcomes, so you don't start from zero and can reuse collective lessons learned. Gap analysis is where CSF profiles turn into action. You pair a realistic view of where you are today with a risk-aligned view of where you need to be. The difference between those two is the gap you have to manage. By systematically comparing outcomes, you can point to specific missing controls, weak processes, or under-resourced areas. That analysis then drives a prioritized roadmap for funding, staffing, and sequencing security improvements. Here's a practical benefit of CSF profiles. Technical teams think in logs, patches, and configurations. Executives think in risk, budget, and strategy. Profile outcomes give you a shared, outcome-based language. Protect sensitive customer data, or restore services within 4 hours. Funding requests can now be tied to specific CSF gaps, and leadership can clearly see how investments support the mission and reduce risk. CSF can also act as your Rosetta Stone for compliance. Instead of running separate projects for GDPR, ISO 27001, and SOC2, you define one CSF target profile, then map each regulation to those outcomes. You assess once against the profile and reuse that evidence across different audits. Auditors see a coherent, risk-based story, and leadership sees a single, defensible cybersecurity posture. Supply chain risk management is another area where CSF profiles become very practical. You start by translating your target profile into vendor requirements. If you want to work with us, these outcomes must be met. Vendors then describe their current profile with supporting evidence. You compare the two to see where third parties fall short and what risks you're inheriting. Those gaps then flow into your governance process, so leadership owns decisions on exceptions and remediation. Profiles are where CSF 2.0 becomes strategic. They translate a generic framework into a tailored view of your environment, risk, and constraints. They help you focus scarce resources on the highest impact gaps, and they give engineers, risk teams, and business leaders a shared way to talk about cybersecurity. Next, we move from concepts to doing the work. You'll scope a real organizational profile, decide what's in and out of scope, and identify who to involve. Then we'll look at practical ways to gather evidence and use it to draft a defensible current profile. Take a moment to map this to your world. How are security investments prioritized today? Gut feel, compliance checklists, or risk? Where would a target profile change that conversation? And which community profile would most closely fit your environment? As you start applying CSF 2.0, don't reinvent anything. Lean on the official resources. Use the core taxonomy as your single source of truth for functions, categories, and subcategories. Explore the Community Profiles library to see how real organizations scoped and documented their implementations. Then follow the Quick Start Guide to structure your current and target profiles, evidence collection, and roadmap work step by step from the beginning.